When something came to an end, the people involved still had to live in a place full of those memories. Suppressing those memories from resurfacing was not easy to do. Loft, the owner of this house, has been struggling with such feelings since forever. And it became even more difficult when it was clear that between the two of them, there was no other possible status apart from an old acquaintance. Every area, whether it was the bedroom, the kitchen, the swimming pool, the living room, including the area where she worked every day, reminded her of the woman she had fallen in love with. If it were to continue like this, Loft didn't know when she would be able to heal her wounds. No matter where she looked, she saw only smiles and happiness lingering in every square inch. You looked sexy wearing an apron while working on pottery, and now you even look sexy while cooking. The person who was standing with her arms crossed looked at the chef closely. She had a sly smile on her face while she complimented the woman. The petite frame was busy cooking. Her face had a focused expression. Her long hair was tied up in a high bun, showing of her fair nape. Pure really looked good in every action she took. No matter what she was doing so intently, it was very difficult to take her eyes of her. "Is there a time that I don't look sexy in your eyes?" The young woman who heard the sweet sentence asked without looking at the other person, but the corner of her mouth lifted up slightly. "None. And are you intending to stand there, cross your arms, and just watch me? Go sit and wait at the table." The younger woman who asked to have fettuccine had been hovering around her since she started. Now that she was close to her goal, Loft still refused to move. Pure wasn't sure what was so interesting about standing and staring at her while she was busy here. "It's hard to see if I sit there. I'm just cooking." Pure glanced at her for a moment and met those sparkling eyes. When Loft's thin lips moved to correct the sentence she had just said to align with her mind, the sweet talker gave her the look that she often said were her flirty eyes. "You're just pretty when you cook. I'm just pretty when I do anything." Pure corrected her again, and Loft had to give in because there was no way to push her sweet words further. In the tall girl's eyes, Pure looked beautiful while doing anything, just as she said. Who could argue with that? Even now that Pure was no longer within sight, Loft still knew that the woman would be as beautiful as before. She wondered every day what the older woman might be doing, and if there was someone else by her side. She kept wondering about that latter question every time. And when she thought about that empty space beside the woman that was not hers, a tingling sensation ran through her every time. "Are we doing it here?" she asked, even though her body was already sitting over the other woman's lap. Loft smiled and dragged the hand that was previously placed on the older woman's small waist all over her back. Her eyes stared at the lean frame sitting on top without a blink. "We've never done it here." Here was the sofa in front of the big television screen. Earlier, they were just seated side by side, intently watching the movies. But when they started with those soft touches on their lips, it went further until it reached the point where the other woman was resting on her lap like this. "No one will come, right?" Even though she had never seen anyone else come into this house at night, she was worried that things wouldn't be as usual. The scene of her and Loft cuddling and touching each other intimately, plus how their clothes were on the verge of falling off, was probably not a good sight to look at. But seeing the girl's watery eyes, her flushed face, and her heavy breathing, Pure could tell that the girl would definitely not let her end what was about to start. "No one will walk past us, right?" The girl firmly insisted that she would continue here. Pure wrinkled her nose and complained to the person who asked so seriously to watch a movie, but in the end, she wasn't even looking at the screen. "And who said she wanted to watch a movie? Is the movie as pretty as you, Pure?" the girl said as she gave a smile that made Pure have no choice but to nod, giving permission to do what she asked for. She wasn't getting carried away by Loft's sweet words, but the reason she often indulged the girl was because of that lovely smile. That night, the movie that everyone said was so much fun couldn't give her as much happiness as Pure gave. The conversation between the characters continued to reach their ears, but it was accompanied by their sweet voices that leaked out again and again. The tune of Desire started playing out not long after the famous movie had started. Until the story that lasted over an hour and a half reached its end, the lust of the two women still couldn't be extinguished. While the big house was in silence with no other sounds to interrupt, the moans that were once somewhat muffled became several levels clearer. "You're so good at staying in the same place." The unblemished face was leaning on the table, watching the woman who had been seated for almost 2 hours without moving, coloring in the large drawing book as she complimented. "Who would be fidgety all the time like you?" The young woman, whose hands were still moving and smearing color on the paper, glanced at the crumpled face of the person who was scolded for a moment, then laughed with affection. I'm not the patient type. Wanna try? My drawing and coloring skills are hopeless. It's so bad to the point that the art teacher threw away my drawing book in high school, so I don't like doing things like this that much. The person who had a bad experience said with a relaxed manner, not holding a grudge against it anymore. But if asked if she would like to stay seated to draw and color like Pure did in her free time, Loft could immediately say the answer was no. That's too bad. Is that part of the reason you do like it? The gorgeous older woman, who was often referred to as a talented artist, immediately halted her busy movements. She stopped coloring and played with the long coloring pencil in her hand instead, as she asked in a soft and pleasant voice about the point that might have become a trauma for the girl. Her eyes were constantly observing the situation intently. Can you make me like it, Pure? The mischievous girl rested her chin on her hand and grinned widely. The moment Pure received that liveliness, she couldn't resist teasing the girl. Loft meant making her like drawing or coloring, but the older woman thought that she should get back at the other person's habit of flirting every time she had the chance, so she didn't hesitate to do it. Isn't it that you like me already? Can you stop flirting? There's nowhere else for me to go. Loft's face turned red all the way to her ears. The adorable sight made Pure smile and burst out laughing. She used the coloring pencil in her hand to lightly tap the girl's head. When the beautiful woman smiled and laughed, there was never a time that Loft didn't start laughing along with her. Pure was already beautiful, but believe her, when she smiled, that person could become even more breathtaking. She could have everything and succeed at any cause perfectly. The person who had become a slave to love would melt at any ordinary thing she does. You invited me for a swim, but you're not doing it. She glared at the person who kept getting closer as she complained. The girl was the one who invited her. But when they got into the water together, Loft didn't show any sign of desire to swim as she claimed to have. On top of that, the girl kept disturbing her by pushing her back to the edge of the pool and moving her own body close to her. I just want to get you in the pool, you see. Youngsters like to get excited over something like this, don't they? Any age should be excited by this. You in a swimsuit, even a 60-year-old, would be excited. Not only did she say that, but the excited kid used her fingers to play with the swimsuit strap around her neck. The girl's sweet eyes glanced from her face down until the person being stared at felt a sudden heat. The woman had to pop a question, hopping to stop the stare that was as if she was going to be swallowed alive, embarrassing her. What is it? You're pretty when you're wet, huh? Loft nudged the face that was soaked with water droplets up and carefully examined every part of it, from the woman's eyebrows, eyes, nose, and soft, natural red lips. While she was enjoying the beauty of her partner's face, the owner looked at her suspiciously, pressing the speaker of that sentence to hurriedly make up excuses for the ambiguous words. I mean wet from water. Even with that excuse, it didn't seem to show her sincerity enough. Pure still squinted her eyes and stared at her, so Loft laughed, before finally muttering, I was wet by the pool water, Pure. Don't look at me like that. I didn't say anything. The teasing girl shrugged lightly, while her beautiful face was still adorned with an unfading smile. Your eyes are accusing me of some other wetness. I'm not. But the other wet is also pretty, Loft admitted and moved her face closer until the tip of her prominent nose lightly brushed against the soft cheek that was still wet, nuzzling her breath onto the woman's face continuously. Pure's hands that had been resting on her side were lifted up to rest on the shoulders of the person in front of her, and she unknowingly squeezed when her neck was attacked by the girl's lips. Really? I like it when you ask me this. She found quite a liking to the woman's go-to question. Loft pulled her face away from the gorgeous older woman's sensitive spot and told her thoughts. At the moment when their eyes met before Pure said the same thing over again. Really? As the woman moaned in response from her throat, the thin lips were almost immediately pressed by Pure. The heavy pressure attacked her along with it. Willful drag and flick of the girl's tongue. The older woman's two arms hugged the girl's neck, pulling her body closer. The thin swimsuit could not withstand the heat. That was being exchanged between the two. Their breaths were huffled as her emotions were aroused and raged. You can't do more here. Tears fell on the thin tablet in her hand. The person who intended to work but didn't get anything done blinked her eyes a few more times to drive away the impact of missing the other woman. She took a deep breath, trying to put an end to the sensitive feeling as soon as possible, even though there was no one here to see the scars that the other woman had left for her. Loft did not want to drown in the feeling of longing all the time, while the other person had forgotten everything that happened here. But why did she still remember everything? Pure still made her feel confused. No matter how hard she tried to shake that person off her heart, she could not. The voice, the glance, the expressions, the smile, and the faint scent were still vivid in her memory. Her feelings for Pure were more than she expected. The level of sorrow that she had prepared for before could not reduce the impact it actually had. It was much heavier than she had estimated. Pure came and smashed her heart until it was broken into pieces. Just thinking about it made tears flow easily. Loft had never been tortured by love this much before.